vibrait, c'est-à-dire l'écriture, le ressenti et la transmission. À partir du moment où j'étais dans mon alignement, l'utopie individuelle étant à peu près réalisée, même si c'est le chemin de 300 vies, j'ai commencé à vivre des utopies collectives. J'ai rencontré des gens qui croyaient, mais parce qu'il faut y croire, que ce métier peut permettre de participer, à aider, à peut-être changer le monde. Donc j'ai travaillé pour l'ONU, pour l'UNESCO, avec d'autres journalistes sur les questions d'égalité, de diversité. Et puis mon fils est arrivé, sachant que quelques mois plus tôt, la médecine occidentale m'avait dit que je n'aurais jamais d'enfant et qu'il n'y avait rien, mais alors rien à faire. Ça rejoint la médecine intégrale, peut-être qu'il y a d'autres dimensions du monde qui nous échappent. Et j'ai rencontré les gens de l'INRES. C'était il y a 5 ans, il y a 8 ans. 2 hommes, Stéphane Alix et Sébastien Lilly, ont créé l'Institut de recherche sur les expériences extraordinaires. Il fallait y croire, il y a 8 ans, de donner la parole à des gens qui vivent des choses hors normes parce qu'ils sont dans une ouverture de conscience sur d'autres dimensions de la réalité. Aujourd'hui, ça donne une équipe de journalistes d'investigation sur ces phénomènes-là, sur l'ouverture de conscience, la spiritualité, les sciences frontières. Un magazine qui s'appelle Inexploré, qui est en kiosque, qui est lu par des dizaines de milliers de personnes. Un site internet, et aujourd'hui, grâce au réseau qui est derrière nous, à tous les bénévoles et à tous nos lecteurs, une télé sur le web qui se lance la semaine prochaine. Donc je vous le dis pas pour faire de la promo, je vous le dis parce qu'il faut se dire émotionnellement, et je vous le dis parce que j'ai beaucoup de gratitude pour tout le réseau et pour toute l'utopie collective que ce magazine et ces médias participent à porter. Et ma première question, elle est un peu sur ce travail-là, c'est-à-dire que en tant que parent, en tant qu'enseignant, en tant que transmetteur, moi j'ai régulièrement la question qui vient, c'est so what ? C'est-à-dire, est-ce qu'on peut vraiment transmettre une qualité d'être, une compréhension du monde, un petit chemin qu'on a fait, ou c'est de toute façon à chaque être, quand il naît, et ensuite de faire le chemin again and again.
What feels most important to me is to arrive in it freshly in each moment. And so my agenda to communicate it comes from the place where I think I know it, but I don't know it. I have to discover it in every new moment. I have to recognize the opportunity to be more intimate, more connected, more able to love than my social face. And that doesn't look the same. In some moment it's about humility, in another moment it's about discernment, in another moment it's about courage, in another moment it's about tenderness. It's always new. And so I will only communicate what I'm being. And no matter I've been a practitioner for 40 years. I grew up in an intentional community. I spent the first half of my adult life in an ashram. But that's not of any use to anyone if I don't get off my act of being somebody and actually become interested in you now and listen and care. And so whatever I would communicate or think I had to communicate will be in the way if I'm so in the ego of thinking I have something to communicate. And I just have to be really interested to discover what that is.
I'm not sure I really understood the question, but
Ma question c'est, est-ce qu'en tant que parent, tout simplement, okay, I can do it in English.
okay, good enough.
Okay, as a parent or as a teacher, what do we transmit? Do we transmit message, or do we transmit a vibration?
Uh-huh.
What is it exactly? How can we manage to transmit someone to someone? What is the real media? I mean.
Well, I would answer that question that there's two ways to answer it. If you're talking about being a parent and transmitting something to a child, it's where you're standing and where you're coming from is actually, it's not in the words, because you can say all the right words, but if you're coming from a part of yourself that is separate, trying to be the good parent, trying to do what you're supposed to do, And that's a good motivation, but the deeper motivation is you want to be an authentic human being. And if you can do that and you find a deep trust in life itself, then what you're actually transmitting to the child is a trust in life itself. And if we get that from our parents, and we get a deeper trust in life, that's going to take us quite far. Because most of us don't get that when we're born. Most of us, we come out and there's a problem. And we don't know what to do. There's a lot of insecurity around not knowing. But what if there was a trust in life and there was an embrace of not knowing? It could relax a child in a way that most of the time we don't get. We don't have it in ourselves, and we don't transmit it to others. But if we do get rooted in that deeper part of ourselves, then there's a transmission that automatically will come through. And I think you've seen that from some people. I was definitely impressed with the Orvilleans and how they manifested this deep trust in life. And then I don't know if people could feel it, but something inside of you relaxed. And that's what we can give to each other, and we give it to the children. But we need to give it to each other too. We can't just focus only on the children, because there's a lot of adults that have a lot of potential. We can transform our lives, whatever age we are. You know, we have to do it now. It doesn't matter if you're young or you're old, and it doesn't matter, you don't have more capacity if you're young or you're old. You have the capacity because the deepest part of ourselves is reaching for something higher. That's in all of us, it doesn't matter which age. And we all have the capacity as we learn and as we get older. We do have the capacity to choose more than what a small child might have with their understanding.
Yeah, this is a great question, and I really want to echo what Terry said, and also what I think Terry expressed beautifully just now when he was speaking, which is, and also what Cynthia said, which is just, I think the challenge for all of us is to rest in that place of not knowing, and to surrender to our soul's calling from that place. And just reflecting on this question in terms of transmission, or what is transmitted through this process of awakening, or helping or guiding each other, I just find more and more in my own experience. I mean, I've been I guess we could call a practitioner now for about 30 years, and I'm finding, and I now find myself in a position of being a founder of this project and guiding a growing group, a growing Sangha that's inspired by the ideas we've been sharing. But my own experience is that every day I feel like I know less and less, and I feel like a constant beginner. And as I said this morning, and I say it almost every time when I'm teaching, I feel like I'm just getting started, and we're all just getting started. And yet I'm also aware that at the same time, there's experience, there's greater understanding and depth and appreciation for complexity. And I think there's a kind of koan, as Terry used that word, the koan, a riddle at the core of whatever spiritual freedom is, or spiritual awakening is, which is that when we have the courage to truly surrender to not knowing and to the divine, that we can never know and never quantify and never fully articulate, we're more able to respond with great precision. And at times, as Terry said, it might be very tender and very gentle, and at times it might be ferocious. In other words, there's something that's allowed to come through us that's not really in our control. And I think we're all like many-faceted diamonds. You know, we're like a jewel. A human being is like a jewel with many sides and many facets. And we can't possibly address and articulate all of those facets at any one time. But at any moment, one facet of our jewel, our character, might be in need of some kind of inspiration, adjustment, or it might need a little bit of stronger encouragement or force to help make a breakthrough. And that's not something that we can do or figure out with our minds. I just find it's something that we can only begin to approach when we surrender. to this unknown, and then take the risk to bring forth whatever response wants to come from there. And sometimes we might find we hit the bullseye, you know, something magical happens, something miraculous. Sometimes we might find, yeah, there was fundamentally a good effect, but we might think afterwards or talk together afterwards and go, no, it was a little bit off course. And sometimes we might downright make a mistake. And as Terry said, we're going to be also failing every step of the way. But I think if we can just embrace that as all part of the process and continue to take the risk to give ourselves to this mystery, we're going to find that all of us, in many, many different manifest ways, are capable of transmitting and communicating something extraordinary.
Thank you. On va prendre vos questions maintenant. Hop, c'est parti.
Bonsoir. Donc une remarque et une question. Une remarque, c'est merci pour cette journée où j'ai pris conscience de pas mal de choses. Et une de mes consciences, c'est une pensée émue pour tous ces étudiants qui doivent suivre les cours pendant toutes ces années sous ces bancs. On va faire une minute de silence. La question, parmi tous ces conférenciers depuis ce matin, j'entends le mot encore de crise. Et le mot de crise, il me gêne un petit peu, surtout ici. À l'extérieur, par les médias, je veux bien comprendre que crise, ça a du sens. Le mot crise, pour les médias, ça nous empêche de penser. Ici, le mot crise, c'est on dit qu'il y a une société qui est en train de se diliter, des modèles qui s'effondrent, tout un tas de choses qui nous ramènent à une utopie d'hier. Aujourd'hui, il y a une utopie qui est devant, c'est celle du nous. Donc nous allons quitter le je pour le nous. Donc parmi tous ces conférenciers qui utilisent le mot crise, qu'est-ce qu'ils veulent dire? Et en même temps, qu'est-ce qu'ils nous donnent comme message pour atteindre ce nous? C'est clair? Ça a beaucoup de points d'interrogation. Pourquoi vous utilisez le mot crise? Aujourd'hui, le mot crise est à bannir. Nous sommes dans une mutation, une transformation. La biologie est en train de changer de décor. Les énergies de la Terre sont en train de se rééquilibrer. Enfin, pourquoi vous utilisez le mot crise?
I think it might be just the relationship you have to the word, because crisis to me is actually an evolutionary driver. It's an opportunity for us to go forward. And if you put your whole life into an evolutionary context, and you put everything that's happening into an evolutionary context, crisis is also part of evolution. And ego is part of evolution. Everything that you could call negative, it's part of evolution, and it's a driver to move things forward. And you don't look too satisfied with this answer so far, but it really is, because when we think, like Terry was saying earlier, we are so culturally conditioned. So why do we say that this is negative and this is positive from one point of view? What if we look at everything as a process, and we are that process, and we have the power of choice, and we can choose at every time of how we relate to something. So if there's something called a crisis, you could relate to that word in a negative way and have kind of a contraction that maybe you want to get away from it. Or you could look at the crisis and you go, what is the crisis? And usually what it is, it's a crisis of trust, or it's a crisis of purpose. It's a crisis of care. So to me that's very positive, because if I can look at a crisis and I can see what it is and I can be conscious of what it is, then I can also make a choice of how I want to respond to it. So there's nothing negative about, to me, what's going on. Now, of course there's things in the world that are causing pain and suffering. But I think I said it earlier that anything that causes us suffering, as a developing human being, we just have the tendencies, we just won't change unless there's suffering. And I hope that changes, and I know in my own life I used to suffer much longer, and I think I've gotten a little bit smarter, that I choose to do something different instead of allowing suffering to continue, either for myself or for someone else. I choose quicker to align with with the part of myself that isn't going to be separate, isn't going to not care. I'm going to make a different choice. But that choice is because I'm looking at everything in a different context, and the context is really everything.
I'd like to add a little something for you, because I think you were offering a very kind of cool, rational, challenge and inquiry. If you think about biological evolution and the theory of punctuated equilibrium, the idea that the fossil record shows species being pretty much the same for a very long time, and then in a very short time, a lot of change and totally new species arriving. That period of punctuation could be called a crisis time. And if there's something analogous going on in cultural evolution, we're the ones who get to live in the point of punctuation, the exclamation point. That's a crisis. Nicolas Hulot was talking very forcefully about just how serious climate change is right now. We have refugees streaming into Europe. We have fires where I come from in California. It's not optional to pay attention to the fact that evolution takes place under life and death circumstances, and that things are changing faster now than they ever had before. The word crisis can cause us to get very gripped and kind of freak out. And if that's what it means to you, it's worth saying, I don't want to get gripped. I don't want to freak out. I want to appreciate that evolution has always taken place under conditions of life and death struggle. And this is not different from what's always taken place. And yet, nothing like this, like exactly what we're facing, has ever appeared before. It's an unprecedented series of challenges, and they have to be met in a wholly new way, and we have to show up for it. And so that's critical in that sense. So maybe that gives you a better relationship to crisis in a different way.
Thank you. Another questions?
I have a question about the connection we have with nature. I have this theory that nature is sending us messages and that we don't really listen to them. I was wondering if I was the only one thinking that, or if is there something that we can tell other people who don't believe that? I see the tsunamis, for example, a message from the sea telling us, stop screwing with me. Sorry for my French. So how can we spread the message?
Well, I totally agree with you. Nature's sending us lots of messages. And not only the big dramatic ones like the tsunamis and obviously the fires that Terry just mentioned. Also where we live in Portugal, we're in constant danger of fire. So there's the ones that make the headlines. But there's all nature is sending us messages everywhere, all the time. The earth is radiating healing energy, and if we've got if we can open up to non-rational, non-linear modes of communication, we can start to commune with those energies. I think this is a big aspect of the evolution of consciousness that we very, very much lost touch with in Western culture. I think this is a big dimension that we can learn a lot from the indigenous and tribal cultures that are still left on the planet. And in my own journey, evolving journey of awakening, that kind of sensibility and intimacy with nature is a very big factor, and I feel bringing that kind of intuitive feeling felt wisdom, making room for that in ourselves is a big part of our evolution, especially as Westerners, because a lot of us tend to be too top-heavy. You know? We're more developed cerebrally in our rational thinking, our capacity to make all kinds of subtle distinctions, and that's also very important, very valuable. But we're often losing touch with this more intelligence of the body, intelligence of our organic interconnection with the natural world. So I'm a nature lover, I always have been. I mean, that's why you saw where we're creating our project. I wouldn't, personally, it wouldn't be my soul's dream to be creating something in Paris or London. But there are other people, of course, and that's their soul's dream. So we need to do it wherever we feel it. But even if we're living in a city like Paris, I'm sure if you go and just listen to the trees, go for walks in the parks, it's all here talking to us. And I think it's crying out to us right now.
I just want to add one piece to that, because part of the reason that we insist upon the separation in society now is because we're moving so fast. Everyone's very, very busy and we're disconnected. And it's not just with nature, the plant world, or the sea or the water, but it's also with the animals. And if we're able to slow down and we're able to connect with the soul essence, the part of the deepest part of ourselves that's the deepest part of everything in this manifest world, we can actually get on a vibration of communication that is the vibration of love. And then we can actually speak with the animals, we can speak with the plants, we can intuit, and we can talk to the water even. We can connect with a lot of things, and people will think this is crazy, but the only reason that a lot of people think this is crazy is because we're moving so quickly and we're so disconnected from that vibration or channel of love that is the source of who we all are. And if we drop down into the source and we just speak from that channel, instead of a channel of superiority where most humans are, we're on a different channel from most of nature because we feel superior to most of nature. But what if we actually came back to the source and we related to nature and animals and plants from that place? And there's something I read, and it's just a paraphrase of a quote, but it's something like, the animals will always be imprisoned until we release human consciousness to a higher level. And it's really true. So when we make the effort to raise our own level of consciousness, we not only liberate ourselves from suffering, but we liberate everybody else. So we're connected. Our evolution is not separate from the evolution of the whole.
The second part of the question is, how do we transmit that to other people? Because we all agree on that.
Well,
how do we talk to other people?
I'd like to draw our attention as we contemplate that. I said a lot about how profoundly we would have to shift to come into intimacy with each other, appropriate to our actual situation, and that the foundation of that is intimacy with ourselves. And nature is a great teacher about that kind of intimacy with ourselves. And when we drop into that and our incapacity to have intimacy with a non-human, we become students of intimacy as a general case. We have so much to learn in that regard that we can idealize nature in a naive way. What changes things is if we actually do the practice and break through our self-alienation. And then that's the ground for intimacy with the creatures, with the plants, with the natural world, and with each other. But it's all founded on a certain self-alienation, and it's moment-to-moment practicing that and being unfortunately, there are many things that we can observe, that we can know, and then we can feel righteously aligned with. So many of us, we vote for environmental candidates, we support environmental causes, we feel like we're friends of nature, we enjoy looking at trees and walking in nature, and maybe we have pets or we do things to help animals. And then we feel like we're on the side of righteousness and good. And that identity becomes another wall, another defense. So it's breaking through all those walls.
Well, we always just say something at our project, and we always say the finger's always pointed here. So if you want to transmit anything to anyone, you need to work on yourself, and then the transmission, you actually have a clearer transmission. So you don't really have to worry about the other people.
Okay. Thanks.
Bonsoir, moi j'ai une remarque et une question aussi. Quand vous parlez de Sangha, on parle beaucoup de l'ère du Verseau et de la transformation et de tout faire en groupe et pas individuellement, de changement de dimension aussi, de quatrième dimension, de niveau causal. Donc ça rejoint parfaitement, ça c'est juste des termes de vocabulaire, ce que vous venez de dire. Aujourd'hui, vous dites que tout évolue en même temps. Est-ce que dans cette évolution de conscience, la Terre, dans toutes ces manifestations, aujourd'hui, elle n'est pas aussi en train de changer de conscience, et que cet éveil des consciences, c'est pas aussi, on n'est pas happé par une évolution naturelle de changement de dimension et d'espace-temps déjà de la planète qui nous amène vers quelque chose.
Okay, I'll have a shot. Well, as far as what you said about the age of Aquarius and shifting from the fourth to the fifth dimension and all of that, well, I don't know. I don't think any of us know. All we can know for sure is there's a heck of a lot going on right now. There's something going on of a magnitude that I don't think we can fathom, you know. And again, I love the way Terry just emphasised how, you know, grokking all of this, you know, is just beyond our capacity as evolving beings. So it's like we're always just leaning into something that's so complex, so overwhelming, and we can't really know for sure what all the forces are that are at work and that are being activated. So that's my first caveat, I don't know. But now I'll give you my intuitive sense. I think everything has consciousness. You know, all matter. It's been discovered now by science. It's all vibration. There's some kind of prehension or consciousness that exists all the way up and all the way down. And I believe that also extends to the planet and to our sun and to our galaxy. Our universe is permeated by consciousness. So is our sun, is the Earth, is our galaxy also playing some kind of role in the evolutionary ferment that's occurring on this planet right now? My sense is probably, you know. But I think the danger with giving too much credence to those kind of theories, or even if there's good evidence for it, is that it can create a paradigm of like, well, it's all happening by itself. You know, evolution's happening by itself. You know, 2012 came along and there was this alignment in the galaxy, and now we're going to go from the fourth to the fifth, or whatever it is. I'm not very familiar with it all. But I often find a lot of people that get very fascinated by this kind of prophecy and these forces that may or may not be happening in the universe. Don't tend to keep the finger pointing here. You know, we can tend to be like, well, it's all just happening. And, yeah. So I think as long as we're keeping the finger pointing here, and that right here is a microcosm of the whole universe, then yeah, there's room. I think there's room for everything. I think so much is involved beyond what we could ever imagine and understand. And that's all I can say, really.
I just want to add one little piece, is that maybe that is all true, but I think we just need all the help we can get. And it's just whatever we can do to take responsibility to move everything forward is what we all have to do. And if the evolution of the sun and the moon is all part of it, I'm happy to have them on the team.
The thing I like about that is that it evokes a sense of wonder. And if we have a sense that something bigger is going on than we can understand, and that we will do our part, and yet there's a bigger game going on than we can see, that's healthy. So that I'm for.
Ok, la dernière question. Oui.
Bonsoir. Si vous permettez...
Stand up.
Oui. Alors, un homme et une femme, peut-être, pour clôturer, hein, comme ça, il y a la parité.
Oui, moi j'ai noté un peu la nécessité de ralentir un peu le rythme. Et du coup, je me demandais quelle place donner à la méditation ou autre chose, en tout cas qui nous permettrait d'être dans l'expérience sans passer forcément par l'intellectualisation.
I'll just say very quickly, and then he loves talking about meditation. But I can only say in my own experience that I think meditation, and it can come many different ways, but for myself, meditation is very important. And part of the practice that we do at our project is we meditate at least twice a day, and we do retreats. And it's essential, I think, that we go to this deepest part of ourselves and we connect to something that's beyond time, beyond mind, so that we have an understanding of being a universal human. And from that place, we're able to see all the crises, we're able to see everything from a much bigger perspective. And the other reason sounds like kind of a funny reason, but you know, being a human being is very overwhelming right now. And a lot of the time when we start to really engage with this evolutionary process as ourselves, it's completely overwhelming and it stretches us in all directions. And sometimes meditation is just kind of like the ultimate vacation, because you can just sit and you can let the whole thing go. And you can just go beyond all of it. And then when you come back, you've got more juice, you've got more connection to something deeper that will help you to respond to all the complexity of being a human being right now.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, I would just say that I think it's absolutely essential in the enormous speed and complexity of the lives we're living in. And look, I'm living on a farm in the mountains in Portugal, and I experienced that, so I can't even imagine what you guys are experiencing in Paris. So if we're engaged, if we're living an engaged human life, we're experiencing that. Not only the speed and complexity of communications and all of that, but also, as Terry was speaking about, just letting in the enormity of what's going on, the enormity of what we're feeling, opening our hearts to let everything in. I think meditation can help us with that. I think it's essential, as I was saying when I was speaking earlier, that we honour the transcendent pole of spirit. So the transcendent pole of spirit is all about letting go of everything, and even letting go of utopia, and even letting go of the crisis, and just letting go of everything. I think it's essential that we find some time every day, and it may not be a meditation practice. Some people are more drawn to a practice of prayer or something like that, but just to take some time every day with yourself where we literally just let go and disengage. And that doesn't mean, of course, that our mind's just going to cooperate and become silent, but it means that whatever our mind's doing, whatever ripples and reverberations are still echoing through our system from our day, we just allow them to be. And through doing that, if you're committed to a practice like that and you do it every day or nearly every day, no matter how you feel, if you make it a priority, so it's not something that you just fit into your life when you have time, but you make it as essential as eating and sleeping, you make it a foundation of your life, then it keeps so many benefits. But one thing I think is very important in terms of this discussion is it keeps us humble. It's the transcendent dimension of spirit that purifies us, that opens us to love, to something that utterly transcends ourselves, our limited relative sense of self. If we only give ourselves to the call of eros, as Terry was expressing, to this evolutionary passion that we're all feeling, without honouring that pole, the danger is that we become ungrounded. And there's also all kinds of dangers in terms of the ego subtly coming in and hijacking what is essentially a genuine passion. You know, the need to be somebody, as many of the things that Terry addressed earlier. So, I really think we need to honour both poles, and I think in the midst of our busy lives, it's more important than it's ever been.
Voilà, donc c'est la fin de notre forum, c'est la fin de notre journée. J'espère que effectivement vous avez, comme c'était un petit peu annoncé, en fait, vécu une journée extraordinaire de transformation. Et je voulais, avant qu'on se quitte, en fait, juste d'abord vous redire que on a entendu ce qui est sorti des ateliers, donc on va proposer quelque chose, en fait, pour ceux qui sont intéressés en fait, à participer collectivement. Et puis aussi j'aimerais, en fait, revenir sur scène, en fait, toutes ces personnes, cette petite dizaine de bénévoles, en fait, qui ont participé à l'organisation de ce forum dans les des Tradétiques, en fait, qui nous bénévolement, en fait, font tout ce travail. Donc parce qu'elles y croient, en plus de leur passion propre. Derrière nous avons aussi un arbre éphémère, donc, qui a été fait par la société Waxflower. Si vous voulez vous servir, venir cueillir des hortensias, c'est à votre disposition. Vous pouvez les ramener comme souvenir, en fait, de cette journée. Et puis je remercie aussi les éditions Très Daniel, qui sont notre sponsor historique, en fait, qui nous donne un petit peu d'argent, qui nous permet, en fait, de pouvoir organiser ce forum tous les ans. Et évidemment vous tous, en fait, sans lesquels, en fait, grâce à votre participation, on nous reproche le prix un petit peu de la participation, mais voilà, ils vont faire venir des gens extraordinaires des quatre coins de la planète, et on veut prendre soin d'eux, et on veut les récompenser aussi de leur présence. On essaie de trouver le meilleur compromis possible, et ça nous coûte un petit peu d'argent, donc merci de votre participation. Merci de l'énergie, de la passion que vous avez partagée, communiquée dans ces ateliers. À travers, en fait, vos applaudissements, ça nous donne vraiment le courage, en fait, et l'énergie, parce que ça en demande d'organiser un forum l'année prochaine. Et je pense que le thème, en fait, aura à voir probablement entre l'évolution de la conscience et l'amour.
Oui.
Donc, je vous rappelle, en fait que si demain vous voulez rencontrer les Euromilliens comme Ouma, Jean-Yves, if you want to come with us, c'est possible encore une fois. Ça se passera de 10h à 13h près de Bastille, rue Biscornet, au 11 rue Biscornet au Sense Space, à partir de 9h45. Donc vous êtes les bienvenus, vous pouvez encore vous inscrire, vous présenter en fait si vous n'avez pas fait, c'est pas grave, on verra comment faire. Voilà, un grand merci, je ne sais pas ce qu'on va construire ensemble, ce que vous allez construire ensemble, comment vous allez ressortir, transformer, qu'est-ce que vous allez créer dans cette culture, qu'est-ce qu'on va faire évoluer. Mais c'était un énorme plaisir, une énorme joie et un énorme honneur de vous recevoir et puis d'avancer tous ensemble vers l'évolution de la conscience et de la culture, et l'utopie. Voilà.
Dernière petite chose logistique, je vous remercie de rendre vos casques à joie. C'est extrêmement important, vous imaginez, ne partez pas avec, vous n'en ferez rien, vous êtes brillants. Donc merci de nous les rendre, absolument. Merci à vous tous, merci à toute l'équipe, merci aux intervenants et merci à vous.